welcome to our podcast, Industry Night Events Unveiled. Today we have our guest, Kyle. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, and how you got into the event space.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in London, Ontario, where we are right now. I did a couple music degrees as a singer, and but while I was going to school, I really fell in love with bartending, and in cocktails. I started as a busboy at an Irish pub in Montreal, and I'd just irritate the hell out of the bartenders. I'd be like, oh, quiz me on shots, quiz me on cocktails. Like, I wanted to never be stumped, because there was one time where I was caught with my pants down, and it was super embarrassing. It was just like I just bottlenecked the whole bar because I didn't know something.
They didn't fire you with your pants down?
No. Well, yeah, it's a metaphor. They didn't fire me. I was just a busboy, so it was expected. But yeah, from there I started, like, I was doing an audition in Toronto, and right across from the spot where my audition was, there was this bar. You walk up these stairs, and it was the first time I stepped foot in a bar where I was transported somewhere else. There were probably 300 bottles in the back bar. The bartenders were in lab coats, and which is kind of pretentious now, I think. But back then it was like, I was like, oh man, this is so legit. And I phoned the place up, asked if I could just work for free to learn, and that led to a job. And
it's a lot of people nowadays don't do that. Never take that approach. But it's a smart way to do things when you want to learn. Well,
yeah, I mean, I think it's very prevalent with chefs, right? They call it staging, where a chef an up and coming cook will go, they'll go anywhere in the world to work under a chef. And I just took the same approach with bartending. It also it works as if you want to work at, I'm not talking about your mom and pop bar down the street, but if you want to work at a seriously world-class bar, just phone them up and offer to if you say you'll do whatever it takes to be part of what they have going on, oftentimes that'll lead to some kind of an opportunity.
So I got a question for you. Do you think this new generation would do that?
like Gen Zs, or?
Yeah, I know, I'm stereotyping, obviously, I'm sure some would, but on the whole, do you think that, because I think all of us would be we're all pretty ambitious guys. Mm-hmm, yeah. We'd probably hear your story and be like, yeah, if there's something I was really passionate about, I would do that too, right?
Yeah. I think if they're, like you said, I think the key word there is passionate, curious, interested in it, then sure. But if you're just looking to do it as a means to an end to make some money or just get a job, I think the vast majority would not do it. I think that I was uniquely interested in it as well. I was enchanted, and so I did that. I even our generation, most people wouldn't do that, I don't think. Do you think they would?
What year are you?
88.
88, okay.
Yeah. So how long ago was that?
That was, that would have been 2012. So 11 years ago.
So you've been what, 20? 19, 20?
I would have been 24.
Oh yeah. I guess I could have done the math.
24. I had experience before then, but it was just it was bartending, it was serving, and a little bit of managing. I've worked in dish pits, kind of every aspect of the bar or of the restaurant, but never at that kind of level, right? Where you feel it when you step into a bar and you're like, whoa, it's a different echelon, Yeah.
So what is the coolest bar establishment that you've ever been to? And in even international, I know you just described one clearly, but is that kind of the bar none the best one you've ever walked into?
No, I think that the two spots that come to mind. Okay, no, three spots. I'll lead with the Canadian spots. One is Bar Raval in Toronto. Bar Raval. It's a Spanish joint. I worked there for a few months back in 2016. Actually, I just had the one of the founders on my cast, Kyle Guilfoyle, and it's just one of those places where you walk in and you're just I feel so cool just being in here, They imported all this South African mahogany. The room is gorgeous and beautiful, and it just has this aliveness to it. There's it's all standing rooms, so no one's seated, and there's just this kind of flow and energy to the room. And this is an often overlooked aspect of bars. They have hired like professionals to curate their music. And so the music in there is just always spot on. And just all the attention to detail is so like in their bar grates, they have like little Wu-Tang Clan symbols, just like cool stuff like that. At both wells, they have like these lights that shine up, and so like you have your mixing glass on it, and it just like creates this, like it illuminates the drink, just like cool stuff like that. Then the other spot is Wolf in the Fog in Tofino, British Columbia. Just again, it's like this. It's an unassuming place. It's just like Tofino's. Have you guys been to Tofino?
I've been to Seashell, but not to Tofino.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a tiny town, like maybe a couple thousand people. I could be wrong. Don't hold me to that. But again, it's like they have captured, the Pacific Northwest so well in this restaurant. And yeah, so those are my two favorite spots. And then back in the day when I was just getting started, it's no longer in existence, but Milk and Honey in New York City. I think it's called Attaboy now, but again, don't quote me on that. But again, it was like this. It was in an unassuming neighborhood. Like it was just like it looked like you were going to someone's house, and you'd get let in. Like you'd have to knock on the door, and they'd be like, "What do you want?" And we're like, "Hey, is there a bar here?" And they're like, "Yeah."
Like Prohibition style?
Yeah, kind of like speakeasy style. And then, but you go and you sit at the bar, and the bartenders are just like mind-blowingly good.
Looking?
I think they were good looking. I don't remember that part. I think it was another place that like back in the day they wore like lab jackets or something that was kind of like hip.
Did you guys know that London has a speakeasy like that?
Yeah.
Which one am I talking about?
I forget the name, but it's on Dundas.
Is it Mockingbird?
Mockingbird is the one I'm thinking of. But it's not really a speakeasy. It's
It's like literally there's no signage or anything, and you have to knock on a door, and someone lets you in, and then when you get in, it's actually a full-blown bar.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually the only one that I know of. The only one that I know of in London is the Night Owl, which is above the taco place, Los Lobos. I don't know if it's actually still open or not. I think they might have expanded Los Lobos up to the second level. But for a while when Los Lobos was just starting, the only way that you knew whether it was open or not is there was an owl, kind of a metal owl in the corner of the building. And if the eyes were lit up, then you'd have to go and knock, and you were at the mercy of the guy at the door, whether he's letting you in or not.
Yeah,
it was kind of cool concept.
Yeah, so
I had a question for you. So a lot of the bars that you mentioned, I don't know if there were restaurants in there too, but is there a difference between like the culture? So when he asked you, he's like, "What's the best bar you've ever been to?" Are you including restaurants in that, or is there kind of like a difference in culture?
I would say I was including restaurants in that, especially with Bar of Val, that like it's all Spanish pinchos, right? So small plates, really food friend, or sorry, like the cocktails and the food paired really well together. Yeah. And there's something about the way the menu was laid out and the style of dining that just like you just keep on consuming stuff, and you get super high check averages, even though you look at the menu and the pricing's like it doesn't look that bad. Wolf in the Fog, amazing restaurant. Yeah. And then Milk and the Honey was purely a bar, which you won't find. It's like really hard licensing wise to find that in Canada.
Yeah, I was gonna say like in Ontario, it's almost impossible to just be a bar. Like you need to have some kind of a food item from an AGCO standpoint. It's actually really difficult.
I knew a bar that would have Mr. Noodles for sale.
I know, right? Like, yeah. And some of them do get away with it by like selling. And this is actually how bottle shops are starting to pop up in Ontario. There's a loophole that actually I'm trying to exploit right now. There's a loophole. Where all you have to do is sell a food item, and then you can be a delivery service for alcohol.
Oh,
right. So the loophole is I'm going to open up a bottle shop, and as long as people buy a bag of chips with their alcohol, I've delivered it to them.
Yeah, I've even heard some spots like you just order the alcohol, and then you don't even have to order food. They'll just like slip in a 15-cent charge on your bill and send you fries. I can't see that lasting very long.
Yeah. No, like once it becomes well known, after this podcast blows up and everybody watches it, once it becomes well known, then it's going to be one of those things like corner stores in Quebec. They all have alcohol. It's going to become one of those things where the first to market are going to do well, And then everybody that tries to like ride that wave, like just like weed shops, how are those guys making money? There is one on every corner. I don't understand it. Like, how do they stay open?
That's a good question. Yeah,
That's why it's so competitive. There's some now that are 24 hours. Like there's one right by my house, 24 hours, selling $20 ounces. That's their big like draw to people, and it's like it's super competitive for them. It's oversaturated, but I don't. Hey.
So I want to get back to Kyle's kind of trajectory in the bartending world. So one of the things that you and I have kind of talked about off the record is how you sort of became, maybe disenchanted is a strong word, but you sort of lost the passion for bartending. And what you relayed to me is that's like the typical trajectory of a bartender. And they all kind of live through that. I'm not sure everybody kind of understands that, right? Like most people probably look at the bartending world and they see bartenders as this pie in the sky, like, oh, so cool, why would you ever like want to let that go? So we kind of talk through like that experience.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the pie in the sky thing is real. Like when you're young and you're just getting into it, it's like it is so fun and the money is great, and it's just like, how many people do you know who actually have jobs that they're like excited to go to, and they feel like, they get a little pumped up for their shift? Like that's a cool thing to have, especially when you're young. But yeah, like I'll tell our students, who are just getting into the industry, I'm like, 99.9% of you have a shelf life here. Don't look at bartending as like something you're going to do for the rest of your life, because you will become, I don't think jaded is the right word. You'll just want to get out from behind the bar eventually, and instead look at it like a very powerful stepping stone. And it's not just the money, but it's an amazing way to meet people, to network. I've served and made friends with big time CEOs. I've also made friends with like tattoo artists, and so it's so like this isn't talked about enough. I don't think it's like there is no other job where you meet so many people. Like a bartender will meet more people in a night than most people meet in like an entire year.
And I know a lot of bartenders that go into other avenues after, like real estate or financial advisor, because they know so many people from the bar industry that they leverage that network and use it.
They also have so many bribes to hang over people's heads.
Yeah, for sure.
Be like, you should do business with me.
That's how we're going to end the episode. You're going to tell us the craziest story someone confessed to you.
And that's how they get all the clients after.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, that's what I just like. I think you get to a point where it's like you are serving people all night. You're on your feet all night, and I just think most people get their fill of that. I don't think
Is it the physical wear and tear?
I actually think it's more like emotional. It's more like I toward the end, and maybe it's mindset stuff, I don't know, but I got to a point where like my fuse was quite short. Like even people asking you like, or sort of, asking for things in certain ways that were just like, I wouldn't talk to anybody like that. And so I'm not going to stand for you talking to me like that. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you ever come back here again, So just like, I think that's it. And you kind of want to stand gate at like the garden of, your mind and just who you are. And so, and you can't filter out people the same way when you're behind the bar.
It's like what they say when like people are drunk, you're seeing like the raw, like some people say it's the real person. Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about when someone comes up, he's like, hey, give me a drink right now. I got these two to serve. Fuck those two. Serve me now. It's like that type of shit. Mm-hmm. I get that too as a DJ, where like people just feel entitled. Yeah, and it's like you kind of just get tired of that shit over time.
Because that filter's gone.
Yeah, exactly. Times, I can imagine.
Exactly. I mean, and like I think a workaround is to aim to work at like nicer and nicer places, which in the end I was working at like a great place. But still, even then, you still get people who are assholes, and I'm just like, life's too short. I think that's it. You just get to a point where you're like, life is too short to deal with absolutely everybody, and I'm at a stage in my life now where I want to curate the people I spend my time with, and bartending just doesn't.
So before we go too far, because you were at the exciting part of your life, you went to a restaurant, you offered to work there for free to learn. Yeah. What happened after that?
Well, then, I mean, I like I milked it for all it was worth. Like there was one point where I was doing my master's in Toronto, and I worked at 3 bars while I was doing it because I loved it. Like I recognized it as an opportunity. I was like, there's nothing else I want to be doing right now other than like, be flipping tins and making drinks behind bars. So I'm going to like find the best bars I could possibly work at and learn from the best in the industry. And that's what I did. And then from there, I went into, I did some competitions. And then finally, when I recognized that I wanted to start something, that's when I started Nimble Bar Company. But leading up to that, it was really just like, I'm just going to, like, this isn't going to be the case forever. So I'm just going to milk it and work it.
I got another question for you. So like all of us, most of us have, actually you haven't, well, you're mobile bars. So being a vendor in that industry, what's your relationship with alcohol personally, like for you?
My relationship with alcohol?
Yes.
Damn, that's a fucking deep question.
Yeah, just
No,
it's like I'd like to know. Like,
We're going in deep.
It's an exceptional question, actually. My own relationship with it is, I do think that something to be wary of in the industry is how people integrate it into the reward system. And folks who work at bars and restaurants, like the thing you do after shift is you all have a drink at the bar. And I think that is a slippery slope. And so I've had to monitor my own relationship with it. And so there are times where I'll take months off and I'm just like, no, I'm gonna disengage from this. But then, if I'm just kind of going about my usual ways, it does factor into kind of like, oh, like today I did some good work, so I'll have like a couple drinks, and I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that, so long as like it doesn't get in the way of your productivity or your energy. I think energy is a big thing. If I ever feel like it takes a knock on my energy, it's like, or when I do feel that, it'll be gone.
Yeah.
But I'm still.
That's a very disciplined approach.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that.
Yeah.
Very
like
few people.
Yeah.
when we all come in too, like we're all super young. We don't even know how to drink. Like, I don't know about you. When I came into the industry, it was like drinks, like, you know what I mean? It's to take the edge off.
Pretty young.
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. I was also in the DJ industry before, and I set boundaries for myself before I got into it.
Really, huh?
Because I knew some people who were DJs, and I know the industry and what's involved. And I was like, from the beginning, I told myself it's about the music and doing what I actually have a passion for, rather than going down that slippery slope and getting involved with the wrong things.
I loaded up.
But I mean, that's very rare. I've never heard anybody. What made you realize that you want to set those boundaries?
Well, look, first of all, there was a period when I was growing up where I lived with I call my pseudo grandpa. I don't usually tell people this, but he was just like, he wasn't actually my grandpa. He was just like my grandma's ex-boyfriend, and I lived with him, and I would just like sit there and I would watch him pound Molson Canadians, and he'd get to like the 6th one, and I'd just be like I was like 12 or 11, and I was like, do you really need that next beer? And I became like really disturbed by it, and to the point where like one night I was trying to sleep and he like knocked over a microwave, and then I was like, okay, I gotta leave now, but like I just kind of watched it firsthand. And so I think that's it. It's just like if you have a parent that smokes, you're like, you never touch it because you're just like, that's disgusting. And so for me, I think that's really where my awareness around just the relationship with alcohol came from. And like I have an uncle who is just like a morning to night, like first thing he did in the morning, and so you just see that and you're like, oh, this can get dark. And so you got to keep it in check.
Yeah. For me, it's been interesting because you take a different perspective when you're in the industry as the owner of the establishment. Or at least for me with a mobile bar. Well, one, I can't drink because I've got to drive my rigs to my job. So yeah, we'll have like 1 or 2 while we're there or whatever, but you can't if you want to keep your license. Yeah. So it keeps you in check. But it actually has reduced my level of drinking, funny enough, because when do you typically drink? Fridays and Saturdays, right? At least like as professionals, most people will, let loose on the weekends. Well, now my Fridays and Saturdays are typically at events where you're having to put your best foot forward and you don't want to, have too many. So it's forcing me to, not binge drink on weekends like you typically do. But with that being said, the stress of the week, I'm more likely now to have one or two during the week, right? Which I don't know what's bad and what's worse, like binge drinking on the weekend or having one or two, throughout the week, right? Like, one or two every night, right? Really, sometimes, if we're being honest. Because having a kid is stressful.
That's where the balancing act comes in. Like being like in the industry is trying to like, because for some people they'll tell you like, oh well, you're not really working because you're at a party. You know what I mean? You're not really working because you're bartending. Yeah, right. But it's like, no, I'm working. You know what I mean? So sometimes that line starts to get blurred, and it starts to seep into your regular life to where like. Now you can't tell the difference between a Wednesday and a Friday or a Saturday. So I find it, for me personally, it was interesting because I had a journey where like it's almost like a hill almost. I started off really, really bad, like to the point like I remember one time the security guards dropped me at my house, knocked on the door. My girlfriend at the time opened the door and they laid me in my bed. Like that's how drunk I was. You know what I mean? But we were so close that it stayed in house. Oh yeah, and I kept on DJing there. But then after a while, I started to catch on and be like, because I thought it's normal, right? Anytime you see a DJ, you'd be like, oh yeah, he's got a drink in his hand. Oh, he's got a drink in his hand. And then as I started to like take my craft more serious, I talked to some of the other more professional guys. Oh, he's got a ginger in his hand. It's not a ginger. It's not a vodka ginger, or it's not a whatever rum and coke. And I'm like, oh shoot. So people do this sober. Okay, I understand. And I took that challenge on of like, okay, let me try and do this sober, which was really hard. Really, really fucking hard. I remember the gig when
Habits are hard.
Yeah, like I was literally like shaking because I didn't realize how much I was drinking.
Like dependent on it.
Exactly. So it's always interesting to ask other like vendors and just people that are in the industry.
But I think that's one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is to talk about, not just the shiny part of the events industry, which everybody typically sees. It's like, these are some of the challenges of the industry that people kind of face, right?
Yeah. Substance abuse in this industry, like, bars and restaurants, it's like, it's a problem for sure, I think. And and a lot of it is just in the shadows. Right?
I was going to say, it's not talked about a lot, right? It's definitely not something that you see on podcasts, you see really like talked about at all, really. Because people usually are still in that industry, they're still involved, and they don't want to be kind of marked as like an outcast or whatever, right?
Yeah. And there's a lot of shame on both sides of it, right? There's shame in the folks who don't do it, and then they're not like, it's just like, it's more of a social pressure, but then the people who do have problems, like they're not going to bring it to the light because they're ashamed. I think it's very good to talk about it. Definitely. I probably won't drink at all. I took 6 or 7 months off last year, and just on average, I'd like that to kind of go up. And I just like when I don't drink, that's kind of the best version of myself. My big challenge, it's just like I don't get hungover. It's probably because I don't like getting wasted. I don't get super drunk, but I wake up and I could have like 3 or 4 drinks, and the next morning I'm like, it's like any other morning. So
well, I mean, 3 or 4 drinks is like nothing though.
Yeah, well, maybe that's it. Maybe I got to double up or something, or triple down,
So if you don't drink, how do you know your cocktails are?
Oh no, I taste.
Okay.
I taste them, and I mean, like I'm not. I don't really work behind the bar or work events anymore, so I'm not having to taste them. I do more training these days than, and so I'll taste students' drinks and.
So how did you move from the bar industry, working as a bartender, to teaching?
Well, I was really close to starting an MBA after my master's of music. Because I just knew I was always super, I love business.
Were you working while doing your master's?
Yeah.
For music?
I was working at 3 bars. Yeah, absolutely. And
did you finish your master's in music?
Yeah.
Really smart guy, man. That's very hard.
Thank you. Maybe. I mean,
don't give him too much credit.
It's just singing. It's just singing.
His head won't fit through the door.
No. No. I actually think I'm. And I don't want this to sound too self-deprecating. Actually, I'm pretty slow. I'm a slow learner. I'm a slow reader. I just think I stick things out.
Well, I think what you're saying is a little.
Thank you.
It's a little bit of like imposter syndrome, at least from the outside looking in. From what I can see, That's not easy. Like juggling 3 bartending jobs and doing like an MBA. I don't care what the subject
I mean, I
is.
never started the MBA. Here, case in point, you know the GRE to get in?
To the MBA?
Yeah, like it's either a GMAT or a GRE.
So I got to bypass that.
Okay, yeah. So
Because I already had a master's.
I really did not do well on the GRE. I did try to cram for it, which you aren't, I guess you can't do, but I didn't do well in the GRE. So I instead of doing the MBA, I was just like, why don't I just take all this money I'd be spending on an MBA and just like use it as tuition to actually start something in the trenches. I think even then I had a sense that like entrepreneurship it's not a classroom thing. It's not something that you can't learn by theory. Like you have to learn it in the trenches.
That was the best decision you ever made. Let me explain to you why. So as someone who just finished their MBA, if I would have done my MBA right out of school, it would have really given me nothing aside from the letters, because you haven't really experienced the professional world yet. And that's a really tough beast to navigate.
Even to have like the perspective to understand the scenarios that you're given.
So I think every MBA should come with a prerequisite of having at least 5 years experience in the workforce. That has to be the bare minimum for you to be then able to take your learning and apply it right away. Otherwise, it's all theory and you're gonna lose it, right? It's like, think back to and maybe music is not the right discipline, but if I think back to, my university degrees, it'd be so hard for me to apply it right now in the real world. And the MBA is really about real world application of risk management, of economics, of finances, right? So it really is designed to be something that is done mid-journey in someone's career path, I feel, when you've got that maturity to apply it, right? So
yeah, I'd love your perspective on this, because I agree, especially like a lot of folks who do MBAs, they're in corporate stuff, right? Like I think you were. My hunch is that it's more applicable in corporate America, or the corporate world. Whereas an MBA for an entrepreneur, someone who's looking to start and own a business, I feel like that psychology is really different, and that's very challenging to teach in a classroom. Like that's what do you think? Like,
no, I actually disagree. I think that my MBA has helped me tremendously in terms of being a new entrepreneur, because it teaches you the right way to have systems thinking.
Sure.
And you need systems thinking and processes that are strong in order to bring your vision to execution, right? So you can have the best vision in the world, but if you don't know the building blocks to get there and everything that kind of is connected on the back end, it's going to be very difficult for you to succeed without having a key player, let's say, that has that.
Yeah, and so exactly, but my intuition isn't to get those systems from an MBA. It's to go get it from the person who is many, many, many steps ahead of me, who has done the exact thing that I'm trying to do.
So there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Sure. So you can have a mentor, like a really great mentor in whatever industry you're in, that's going to basically show you the ropes of that industry, but they're going to show you their system, right? So what an MBA does is it shows you that there's more than one system you can use, and how to leverage multiple systems even at once. So, I think everyone should have, a mentor of some sort.
Or like a mastermind of people who are all kind
exactly, right? Like, and to your point, that's a great point. A mentor doesn't have to be a singular person. Like for me, my mentor is groups like this, right? Where I've got like-minded individuals that are in, the throes of entrepreneurship within their first, say 10 years of entrepreneurship, that are just trying to figure it out. Really, so have you guys ever heard the acronym SWAN?
No.
So
I've heard of ISWAN.
Yeah. So you want to try to surround yourself with swans. Smart, works hard, ambitious, and nice.
That's me.
That's why you're here.
You're a black swan.
You gotta find an acronym for that too.
B means
Too good of a joke.
But no, smart, works hard, ambitious, and nice. I actually stole that from my previous employer.
Nice.
Actually, still my current employer. But I stole that from them. But that's our hiring criteria. It's not what degree you have. It's not how many years you've been in business. It's, are you smart? Do you work hard? Are you ambitious? And are you nice? And that's the base we start off of. And those are the type of people that I try to surround myself with, and those are my mentors, right?
I want to piggyback on that too. For me personally, when I went out and I started kind of just doing my thing, I realized that I was doing things and that I wasn't necessarily getting the results I wanted. Sure, I was working hard and I was doing things I thought was the right way. And after I sat down and kind of looked at things, I realized what I was missing was a system which would help me make my plan. That I could come up with a plan, but without a system, I couldn't really execute it. And so now from hanging around like guys like these, I've come to realize okay, maybe let me start looking over here to kind of come up with a system, and also having a mentor too, because for me personally, I haven't quite made the jump fully to own my own company. So I took the role of working under somebody who is like you said, a couple of steps ahead of me, and I get to watch and see. I'm like, okay, so this is how this is done, and this is how this is done. And bringing the two together hopefully is gonna help me get to a similar point.
I think, Kyle, you probably agree. The biggest learning as an entrepreneur is not your successes. It's the things you fuck up, right? It's your failures, right? And that's one of the, and not to say that your route is wrong in any way. I think like what you're doing makes a ton of sense, right? But when you do make that jump to entrepreneurship, your key learnings and the things that are going to kind of mark your path are going to be the things you don't get right. Because that's going to force you to make the necessary adjustments to survive as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of my favorite quips in entrepreneurship is you either win or you learn. And there are these little sound bites that just kind of keep you going, or your failure, your best failures become part of the story unless you quit. And then it's you can't apply those learnings again and again. And then do you guys know this dude Alex Hermosi?
Oh yeah.
Do you know him? Do you know him?
No. Yeah, it's the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
And he's jacked.
Yeah, he's jacked as shit. That guy's, it's annoying how smart he is.
His talking though for me is super hard.
Tell me more.
I just find that he doesn't articulate him. It's something with his voice where is it monotone? Is that what I'm?
Maybe.
But he's very intelligent. I agree with you.
I actually found him to be a very clear communicator. And but another one I got from him, I didn't get those from him, but I got if you do not fail, you cannot quit. And I know this is kind of motivational kind of, but it really that it's just, and it's true. If you just give yourself a long enough time horizon, and you just stick with the thing, I think one of the biggest thing with entrepreneurs is most of them just bounce around. One thing doesn't really work, so they try this other thing and they kind of half-ass everything as they go along. If you just kind of stick with it, with Guest Getter and Nimble Bar Company, I'm just I'll do this for the next 20 years.
I've got a completely different philosophy.
So
my go-to philosophy is fail fast.
Well, yes.
Right.
But stick with the thing. I think unless it's
you stick with the big vision.
Yeah.
But you have to try different avenues to get the success you're looking for. And if that one thing isn't working, don't keep trying the same thing that's not working.
Yeah, don't beat a dead horse.
That's true to an extent, though, because if you don't try hard enough to actually learn the craft or the industry to become successful, you won't. Some people just dabble in certain things because they're interested, and then they lose interest and never put any effort in, and then they move on to the next thing.
Well, let me give you an example. So, and maybe it's a different application. So for when you're hiring people, right? Fail fast. If you've got someone that and a lot of people keep people around because of their own pride. Oh, I went through an interview process with them and my gut feeling was great and I thought they were going to rock it. And then they get into your organization and they fucking suck, right? You're like, I thought it was a swan, but they really don't have the S or whatever, right? Like their intellectual horsepower is not what I thought it was. And they try to stick with it. And they're like, oh, I can coach them. But that's individual pride talking, right? So what you need to do is you need to cut your own pride and fail fast. Get rid of that person and move on to the next, right? And just admit that was a failure in terms of, the hiring process, and then learn from it and ask yourself, how could I have identified those shortcomings in the interview process, and then adjust your interview process. So it's not always applicable to every part of what you're doing, but it is something that, like, one of the core tenets that I try to build into my entrepreneurship philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
What are some of the biggest failures you've had that you learned from?
Oh, well, oh my God. I mean, like kind of like I'm dumb. Like I've done a lot of dumb shit. Like the way we started Nimble Bar Company was just epically.
When we do the reel, we'll just have them be like, "I'm dumb,"
I'm
and
dumb.
then just like with a caption, just like,
I'm slow.
Okay, how about, before you talk about Nimble Bar Company, what is it?
Yeah. Give us the rundown on Nimble Bar, because you talked about teaching people, but this is where Nimble Bar comes in. So let's hear about kind of the trajectory of Nimble Bar.
Yeah. Well, Nimble Bar Company, it kind of plays into the dumb way we started. But Nimble, when we started it, all we knew was that we were good at bartending and people paid us for our bartending services, like our employers. So there must be a way we could repackage what we were doing and turn it into a business. We didn't really know how we were going to do that. And so we thought it would be a good idea to quit our jobs and then take Nimble Bar Company on this like Circus Parade thing across Canada. It was like Canada's 150th birthday, so we were like, oh, we'll go like camp in national parks and we'll make like cocktail videos in these parks, and we'll stop at all these different cities and we'll sell stuff along the way. And
Like, what were you gonna sell?
we didn't know. And do you think we sold like anything?
Maybe. Did you?
We didn't sell shit.
Oh, okay.
And like we were probably a month into this trip and I was just like, oh my God, we are just like burning money here. And we have no idea what we're doing. So I hired a sales coach.
It was probably a pretty fun trip, though.
It wasn't.
No?
No, it like.
Well, because there was the stress of trying to build a success.
There was so much stress. There were 3 of us co-founders. 2 of them fucking hated each other.
That's a good start.
Like they didn't hate each other at first, but they grew to hate each other. And then probably by virtue of the fact that we were in a pressure cooker, which is kind of like, that was kind of part of it too. It's like, well, like if we can't make this work, at least we are gonna learn some stuff about each other if there's like long-term compatibility here. So it was good for that. But and also I hate camping. Like I hate camping. We were doing all this camping, and anyways, so that was how we started it. And then we like came back and we kind of were licking our wounds and we went back to our bar jobs. But to be honest, I couldn't even distill, like that was just so far from reality that like the lessons, I'm not sure I could distill them from that trip, aside from like, okay, co-founders didn't like each other. And, before you quit your job, you should actually you should have revenue. You
should have a plan.
You should know what you're selling. We thought we had a plan, but we didn't. And it's like the common saying, like everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face, right? So we were just like getting punched in the face all the time. I was trying to cold call people, like offering them, anything from video services to, like part of it, we thought we'd do like marketing services a little bit. And then I left with the conclusion that no bar or restaurant valued that kind of service, which was a huge, I didn't read that signal correctly, and I can come back to that later because that's pretty much what I do now. But I think like, what was it?
Probably thought you said Alexa.
Oh, okay. Anyways, we came back, we got our bar jobs back, and then I think the smartest thing I did is I just like with great humility, I just asked people like what they wanted. You know, I asked people across the bar, would you value this? Would you value that? If they express interest, hey, do you want to buy this? And the thing that like a lot of people were asking us is, how did you learn how to bartend? Like it's always the most it's often the most basic thing. It's just like, oh, like I learned how to bartend by doing lots of reps and by surrounding myself around people who are like insanely passionate about it. And because often people would be like, oh, where did you learn how to, like, did you go to, like, some people would be ask if we went to a school or something like that. And so that's when I just figured, you know what, there are enough people asking just how to bartend at this level. And so that's when we got to work just putting a curriculum together. And then we sold, I built a landing page and it got no traffic for like 2 months. But anytime someone would ask me that question, I'd be like, oh, you should check out the Nimble Bar School. And then I give them nimblebarschool.com. And then one day we made a sale and it was like for $700 for the school. And I was like, oh, now we have to actually make this. And that's how we should have done it in the first place. Just keep on pushing it, keep on asking the market what they want, and then create like minimum valuable or viable products. And then once people start to buy it, then you have something that you can run with. And then we sold, like, I actually told my partner that we made that sale in the school, and he was so mad because he's like, we just took this person's money and we have nothing. And I'm like, that's how this works.
Yes. Always get the clients, figure out how to make it work after.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you're describing marketing 101 basically.
Yeah. 100%.
Like you're literally a use case or a business case for marketing, right? Understand your market and ask the right questions to make sure that your going to market strategy is correct.
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly what you were doing in those like early days, right?
100%. And I mean, what better place to do it than across the bar, you know? Like
maybe he should have took his MBA.
Well, I kind of do have this like I kind of want to do like a Harvard MBA or something, like just to like, I feel like it'd be a cool experience. But I would never want to do it as like, oh, I need this to increase my salary, or I just would like to do it because it's a fun thing to do.
As is everything you've done up to this point, right? Just kind of in your nature.
Honestly though, Kyle, you are the perfect candidate for an MBA because you would throw yourself at it, right? Because anybody, honestly, this sounds bad as someone who just finished it. Anybody can do an MBA because it's all about what you put into it, right? So what you put into that program, you're going to get out of it. And you're the type of person, like you described your like passion for bartending, you would go into that program and you would put everything into it. Like if the prof said you have to do reading on page 72 to 78, you'd be the one guy in the class that would read page 72 to 78.
With the caveat that I could apply that. That is one thing I have learned about myself is any academic stuff that I can't directly apply. Like I started my first degree, I started a Bachelor of Arts. I did a year of that. I did not do well because I was learning about like the physics and psychophysics of music or like calculus or just stuff that I don't like. I think I was just picking courses because I was like, oh, that sounds like I'd be smart. Like but I did badly. And so that's actually a big reason why I went into music, because I was like, well, at least I can go see a teacher and I prepare something that I get on a stage and I perform.
You need to see immediate ROI.
I don't know about the ROI, but I need to be able to use it, because if I don't use it, But
that's ROI, right? Return on investment.
Yeah, it's a form. It's a form of ROI. Yeah, I guess I need to be able to see.
You need to see the immediate intellectual ROI, right? Like where like you can then like take this and apply it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is the difference between like something fluffy like what I did, which is history, and something like an MBA, where they're not going to necessarily spend time teaching you about like, here's the history of the guys that talked about economics and like Keynes and all that stuff, right? Like that's the backbone of it. And if you're a historian, you want to understand that. But as an MBA, you just need to understand, okay, as an entrepreneur, how does this impact my business, right? If I'm shipping product from China to Canada, I need to understand the ramifications of that, right? So, and that may be where you would run into some issues, like maybe for you and the type of businesses you're interested in, like the globalization and like the global economy, that kind of stuff might be like, whoa, like this doesn't impact me at all. But understanding it does, right? Because macroeconomics are going to have an impact on you as a local entrepreneur, whether you like it or not. So the more you understand macroeconomic trends, the better you are as a local entrepreneur to be able to make adjustments when you see those macroeconomic trends starting to like happen, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Well, education is also like changing too. So like on one side, I understand what you're saying too. I do, but I also don't with all the fancy shit you just said. I'm not gonna lie. But I also think that like education is kind of almost becoming like, fuck it. Why? I can just go on YouTube. Let me find a guy that's doing some shit that is somewhat resembles what I'm doing. And if he can help me kind of dissect it more, and I guess in a sense, you're almost kind of making your own path by just doing your own research. Is that?
That's what I did. Yeah. That's where I am now too. I just YouTube University.
The economy today doesn't value credentials, it values skills. Yeah. Right? And it's like if you look back to the history of education, it was well, it was created to have people get jobs and to like, yeah, exactly, right? And so, but now the economy is so different. It's a skills-based economy.
It depends. Like if you want to remain in the, uber professional corporate establishment, then credentials are still valued, right? In the entrepreneurship world, I mean,
I was going to say, it matters in the corporate world, but if you're an entrepreneur with your own business, like I went to Western for business, and I'm glad I did, but I learned way more the past few years off YouTube than I ever did in school. And part of that might have been probably because I actually cared about the things I was learning about, so I put more effort into it, right? But
I also want to say that the education curriculum and system was it's geared towards a certain type of learner. So there's some of us that aren't those specific kind of learners. Like for me personally, what I've come to realize is like, maybe if I'd stuck it out and actually went to college, I would have probably done great. Why? Because I love lectures. I have this like photographic memory thing where if you say something, it just sticks in my head and I'll remember it. So when I'm reading my test, I can hear the lecturer saying it. I'm like, that's the answer. But with the note taking, it wasn't really my thing. And so I don't know, does that make me dumb? I guess in today's system, yeah, kind of, but.
Not as dumb as me.
Honestly, you're not wrong, but one of the challenges that I think this generation will face is you are getting hit with so much data and so many conflicting schools of thought at once that it's really hard to filter what should I be retaining and how should I retain it, right? So, that's not something that was even a reality when we were doing our undergrads, right? Like you did have YouTube, you did have Facebook, but what do 99% of people nowadays do is you're getting your data in 15-second sound bites, right? And, some of it is good. And some of it does make you go down a rabbit hole, like Alex Hormozy or whatever he is, right? You're gonna listen to that guy and you're gonna be like, oh, I liked that soundbite. Let me hear more. But the reality is you might get a soundbite from someone that says something great, and then now you're going down a rabbit hole of miseducation, right?
There's so much out there.
Exactly, because who is vetting this information, right? I hope this podcast never get big because this is probably going to kill us. I hate Grant Cardone. Like, I don't know. There's something about Grant Cardone that he just comes across as slimy. And I feel like in like 5 years, it's going to come out that everything was a sham and that he was ripping people off. I don't know. It just doesn't come across as like genuine when he's like, oh, I'm on my jet and I got billions of dollars.
It's like this like bro culture. And Hormozy's a little bit in that as well. It's annoying how smart he is, and I think I say annoying because there is this broiness that like I kind of want to like distance myself from a little bit, but and it's like the type of person who like if you were in a room of Cardone like fanboys, you'd probably be like, whoa, like oh like get me out of here, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I have one memory of Grant. He had the show. Remember the show where he's like, I'm going to show you how to be a millionaire, and he starts all the way at the bottom again. So he's going on flipping, right? And he gets to this point where he's now trying to push this product to people. And he goes, I'm going to show you guys how to sell. And he outright goes up to a lady's car, opens her door, and he's like, I got this product. And she's like, what the are you doing? And just slams the door on him. I'm like, that's reality right there, Grant. Like, it doesn't work like that. But whatever, I just didn't want to judge off that. But for me, that always just kind of stuck out to me. And I'm like,
it feels really pyramid schemey to me, like when I hear him talk. And the point I'm making is that how do people, establish clout right now? It's doing a reel from their private jet and being like, hey, you should listen to me. I'm a great educator because I have all this money and all this stuff around me. But we don't know what's on the back end of that, right? It hasn't been vetted. And that's where like traditional, academia, well, that's the whole point of it, right?
How do you vet yourself? Because you have online courses, right? Technically virtual courses.
Actually, not really. Our like the Nimble Bar School, our main course is like in person. We have
Do you have a physical location?
Yeah, we do it out of a bar, and we've licensed our training as well to like other like our like an alumni who they're in a different city 3 hours north, and so they've given it the same curriculum out of like a different bar. So that's how it could scale. We have like a little online course called Essential Cocktail Formulas. It's like $27. It's not a significant thing. But no, our belief going into it was bartending is a hands-on skill. Sure, there's stuff you can learn online, but we really want to help people accelerate their skill set, and we felt strongly that had to be in person. So yeah, I don't have any online courses actually. We have a little Udemy course. It's free.
what's Udemy?
Udemy, Udemy. It's like a huge online course, like marketplace essentially. Does that make sense?
No.
Oh, like you can just go there and you can get all kinds. Like if you wanted to learn about,
It's like LinkedIn Learning, but for free.
yeah. If you wanted
okay.
to, no, they all cost money. Many of them cost money. But if you wanted to go learn copywriting or ads or whatever, you can go there and you can find different courses that creators have made. But yeah, there was. Shit, that was a great question.
The point that you were gonna say to what he said, I saw the little light bulb click in your head
What had you said right before that?
about academia, why it's important. So
Oh yeah. So
Yes.
So the whole like the kind of other side of that coin though is like sure, you have a lot of courses out there that claim that they can teach you how to make money doing something, right? But if you look at academia, if you look at like most bachelor programs, they're kind of claiming the same thing. Yet you're going to spend 4 years of your time, and you're going to spend tens of thousands of dollars getting it. And in most cases, I could make more as a bartender than you can with your bachelor of whatever it is. And so I think that reality like needs to, people have to be aware of that, or like at least students going into that. It's not to say there isn't value there, but like if you're going and you're like, I'm going to go get a degree so that I can get a job and then earn more money. It's like, well, there are far more efficient ways to do that.
I mean, I think we could talk about like the failures of academia for a long time. That could be its own podcast, and I'm sure it is. But, like what you're really speaking of though, in my mind, then like the biggest failure point there is actually like secondary school education, right? There should be a class on budgeting and credit.
100%. I
Can't believe it's not a thing.
The amount of people that don't understand like how a fucking credit card works,
But that's the rabbit hole, right?
how to file your taxes.
That's
how to file your tax, how a mortgage works, how interest works, literally just interest. If you could like explain to people like the principle of interest and how that impacts you as a consumer, we'd be all better for it.
So, because in North America here, people don't think that there's propaganda, but because we're in this little bubble on our own, we're forgetting that in other countries, they are teaching their kids that. In fact, it starts really young. Like I don't know, the Chinese is really scary what they do, man. I heard their TikTok is like educational. And kids are rewarded for actually like viewing more educational content. I don't know what else they're doing, but anyways, I'm just saying that we're the only ones that aren't doing it. So I guess you're kind of forced as a parent to start teaching your kids on your own and be like, hey, this is what.
But if your parents didn't learn, then you're screwed.
And that's where a lot of us kind of started the race kind of late.
But that's what I mean. Like the secondary school curriculum should have, those core courses baked in. Like cooking's important, but I mean, maybe we can replace that with like budgeting and credit. Like,
but I got an A in that class.
I really want to start a high school after school program that teaches kids how to just start a service-based business. Like you're not coming up with a product, or you're literally like, oh, can you cut lawns? Okay, let's go out and let's get your first $2,000 in monthly recurring revenue, or like learn how to use AI to make a website or whatever, and then go to local businesses and sell to them and get your first $2,000 in monthly recurring revenue in like 6 months. I think the learning in that would be tremendous. Plus, I feel like that's such a great time. They have no risk, they have no overhead in their lives. They can pour themselves into building that. That said, like most people probably won't do anything, or most high school students probably won't do anything, but there will be like a small percentage who will like take it by the horns and go with it.
And those will be the ones that would have been successful anyways.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, but let's get them an early start.
Or not. Sometimes it's hard to gauge because some of the like
late bloomers.
Yeah, like I was listening to Chick Boss, Cake Boss. I forget her name. Rebecca. Her story is very interesting because she was just saying like how like in early on in life she was like in the smoker's pit, like just wrong crowd and whatnot, and then kind of
her and her husband are a real success. So
Yeah.
Chad's her husband. I worked with him for a long time, know him personally, and he had his own personal challenges as well. Clawed himself out of it, met Rebecca, and they're a real success story. So they started off with a cupcake store, and now they have like 4 or 5 stores across southwestern Ontario, and she's like sold a bunch of books and stuff. So shout out to them. They've done a really good. They've done they've done really, really well for themselves, for sure. Awesome. So one of the things that I definitely want to talk to you about is marketing, because I know you're really passionate about it. I'm really passionate about it, and these guys are kind of wrapped up in it as well.
Every business is.
Well, yeah, of course. I found it really interesting looking at your Reels page that you've got one that hit like 60,000 views, and the rest are kind of floating, lower numbers. And you've got a video that hit 100,000 views, and the rest are kind of floating in the hundreds. Yeah, on YouTube. So when you look at those videos, is there something you can point your finger to say, I did a little something different that gave me the edge to make that go semi-viral?
So for that particular video, honestly, it is because it starts with let's talk about jiggers. And a lot of people have never heard the word jigger. And so, to be honest with you, I almost took that video down because of how much like racial slur stuff. Like people are despicable, and it's actually not so bad on Instagram. On TikTok, that video has like 1.8 million views.
What?
Yeah,
For real?
Yeah. So TikTok is interesting to me actually because like all of our videos get thousands of views on TikTok. I have 3 videos that have around 1.8 million views. So like it's on Instagram's a fickle thing, which I don't have any answers.
So do you know where you get a lot? Where do your leads come from? Do any of your TikTok views transition to students or anything like that?
Yeah, we've had a couple people like be like, hey, I'm on the other side of the country. I'd like to take it online. And so we'll like be like, oh, well, we'll charge you like half price and we'll set up a computer. Like we're fully transparent. And it's like, look, this isn't the experience we intended for you to have. But if you're really keen to do it. So yeah, some of them have, but for the amount of views, no.
That's what I heard. I heard TikTok is like you get viral, but it has very little practical.
And it doesn't have the same monetization structure as like say YouTube.
No, yeah. I mean, like people go to YouTube, they're there to learn a lot of the time. Like YouTube's a search engine, right? So the views on YouTube, I would say, are probably higher value. For me, the views on TikTok, it's more of like a social proof play. It's just it's like credibility, you know, and it's like there are lots of people who try to, you know, get lots of followers on TikTok and they can't, right? And I do think that it's more like TikTok really like it craves entertainment. I do think that education plays a part in it too, but like I think things like bartending videos or cooking videos do really well on TikTok. So yeah.
So my original question was there something, like, think of your best TikTok, Instagram video. Is there something that you can point to for someone that says, hey Kyle, I want to go viral?
He was gonna explain it, but it sounds like there's a darker answer to it, like in the sense of like why it blew up.
Well, I mean, so like,
well, I know he did explain that particular video blew up because it had a rhyme with a racial slur, right? Which is like terrible.
Yeah, most people like the most common comment was one letter away from being canceled. You know, just like, and I was just like, oh, shut up. And I disabled comments, and then people started like commenting on my next video, being like, oh, bro knows what he's doing, like disabling comments, and I'm just like, just fuck off. You're all so annoying.
Just don't read the comments.
No, well, I often don't.
I feel like if you go read the comments and like videos that have a lot of views, you could go down a rabbit hole.
Oh yeah,
I will say that whenever like a video has like millions of comments, I love the top comments. Some of them are just
really
so
good.
like,
I'm just like, how are you so clever?
Yeah.
Like some of them are
so
just
true,
very,
yeah.
very clever.
So there are some like gold comments for sure.
Yeah.
So I went through. I'm glad we're here because I went through some of your shit, and you actually have really good tidbits in there. So I'm just gonna kind of spit some of the stuff that I really liked you said. So you got on a topic of attention and awareness. And one of the things I really like that you said is that its attention is rhythmic, so it's very up and down. So it's really hard to like. So how he asked, like, for you getting the 85,000 views versus like some that are only a couple thousand, predicting that and kind of finding the formula to kind of nail the algorithm. Like, how did you come to that? Like, is that just?
Oh, so like what I'm talking about in terms of rhythm is content rhythm, and that's just like producing content on some sort of a rhythm, which I'm like, and I like, this is something we work on with restaurants, right? And but in terms of trying to like crack an algorithm, you know, the organic algorithm, I kind of opt out of that game, and I choose like, it's important to show up. The rhythm is important to show up for the audience and to not ghost the audience. That said, I am not going to be at the whims of a platform and it delivering my content one day and then not delivering it the next, which is why I supplement with ads. So the game I'm really in is in create the content so that we can feed that into our ads, because that we can be scientific about. Whereas the organic algorithm, who knows what, like it's a rocky foundation.
That can be an expensive game to play though.
It can be if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And so, but
it's so tricky.
It really is.
It is. It depends a lot on the product.
Like for instance, in my business, 50% of my ads I would want to put out there would get denied because they're alcohol.
Yeah. So alcohol is fraught. It's tricky for sure. Anything alcohol related.
So I am literally a mobile bar. I could not leverage ads in the way that would get me, or at least like I don't have a strategy without like working with a strategist on like how to put my brand out there in a viable way, right? Because what I would post on my story or what I would post on, you know, my regular posts, I can't actually build an ad out of it because it gets denied every time, right?
Also, too, the integrity too of these apps. Like for me personally, because I would do events and I would put lots of money into the ads, but then sometimes there's just times where it's like, are they really pushing it to your surrounding area, or is this going to like randoms who I don't give a fuck about? I need the people in my direct area. It needs to be like
which is why ads are amazing, right? Like Were you talking about ads or organic?
Yeah, I was talking about ads.
Yeah, there are ways, and there's actually third parties that specialize in exactly what you're describing, where you're like, you pay them to like give you leads, especially if you're a local business in your like local surrounding area, and like it can get as granular as you want it to be, where you can actually dictate, hey, I want it to only go to women between the age of 25 and 35 who have a baby. Like you could literally like get that granular with it.
Yeah, and you can drop a pin on a map and say, I want this ad to be shown 1 kilometer in a 1 kilometer radius. Yeah, so you like that's exactly it. It's like a lot of restaurants are like, oh, like how we want to get on TikTok, and you know, a lot of people think they want to go viral, right? But it's like, well, you know, like what value is it to your business if you go viral around the world for like making this dish? Well, that's cool because it shows that the content is high performing, so that's fine. But now let's take that and let's run ads to it. Let's localize it by just, you know, dropping a pin around your restaurant and just delivering it there, and then you know, maybe attaching an offer or something like that.
It's not. So it's the old saying, right? It's not the quantity that matters; it's the quality, right? So it's and it goes for followers as well, right? So you could have someone with fucking 500,000 followers. But if you're a local business, I don't care if someone from Venice Beach is following me. I'm a local mobile bar, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to bring my service to that person, right? Yeah, it looks great in terms of showing that like I'm a popular brand, but what I value the most is those local followers, right? So, you know, I have less than 1,000 followers right now on our Instagram, but those are all local followers, or like 90% local followers, and those are the people that, you know, care about my brand, care about what's coming out, and potentially will be clients, right? So, and that's really what you want to like try to focus on building, right? You know, the Sabrina, the owner of Modern Mom Show, who's someone who's going to be coming onto the podcast in a few weeks. She is also really good at building organic growth. So she's got like 20,000 followers, but that's 20,000. I mean, if I were to make a guess, local followers, right? Which is really great for a local business, probably one of the top local businesses in terms of like the amount of like organic followers that you have. So, you know, that's really what we're trying to aim to do as local businesses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, like back to you running ads for the mobile bar, right? It's like, I mean, yeah, it'd have to be. I feel like it'd have to be like maybe you run ads to wedding planners or something like that, and you say here like it's a lead magnet around here's how to like execute flawless beverage service or something, because that would be above board.
Yeah. So, but I think it all goes back to like we're coming full circle to kind of MBA conversation, where that's not the only way to go to market, right? And that's not the only way to spend your marketing dollars. So everywhere you hear, and you know, you were doing a course on like content creation and stuff, right? It's like, oh man, I got to get big on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. It's like, no, go to your local chambers of commerce event and do networking. You'll probably get more bookings that way than you will through Instagram or Facebook, right? So for us as local entrepreneurs, at least to start, and because we're all like aiming to scale our businesses, at least to start, those local networking events are going to be your best place. This is gonna be your best place. So actually, you invited me to a charity event that you did in small office, right? Like maybe 30 feet by 12 feet?
It's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny space. So 20 people were there, reaches out and says, hey, Joel, you know, we're doing this thing. Would you want to kind of bring your champagne cart? I'm going to be doing a demo on some drinks. Sure, you know, we'll do that. And I ended up gaining someone I still kind of talk to today, the owner of Morsi House, brand new owner of Morsi House, younger guy. And his name's Sweden. Sweet name. And yeah, we just started jamming on business and like him in the restaurant business. And I just got super curious. I'm like, how does a guy like younger than me own a bunch of restaurant businesses around the GTA and London? And I was like, clearly you've got a good business mind. So we just started jamming on that. So the point I'm making is even a small networking event could lead to a great connection. Even if it's not a client, it could be a great kind of business connection for you, right? So those are the type of things that you want to absolutely pepper into your marketing strategy, is doing, you know, shows, doing events, as many networking opportunities as you can get, that's really what's going to pay dividends.
I also think is like a starting point is just outreach, like cold outreach, but getting like really good data, right? Like so I use a tool called Coldlytics where it's like research backed, and I can get lists and I can literally say exactly what I want that list to be, and say, like, for me, it's often restaurant owners, and the researchers actually ensure that the name is like the name of the owner, and it is the owner's direct email address, not like info at or whatever. And so if you have that kind of data, and so you could do the same thing for like wedding planners or any form of business, which that could become part of the outreach strategy. And like, you can get pretty systematic with it. It doesn't, like when I started, it was painstaking. I go to like, okay, I'd be like restaurants, London, Ontario. And and it would just like take forever, but there are levels to it.
For sure, yeah. And I think it's always be selling. You guys ever heard that saying? Yeah. Always be selling. So, no matter what you're in, you can be at the fucking grocery store, right? And don't sell yourself in a sleazy way, but always have a mindset that this could be a client.
Yeah, I think
right?
you're really good at that.
Yeah. So
like
this,
He always fucking does it.
Yeah. You're a natural promoter, I think. Like and so I think that's a real skill, like a real natural skill.
And collaborator, connector.
Yeah, he's a good connector.
Yes.
But I mean, I think that is such a key to business, right? Is understanding not just your own self-interest, because that comes across as so sleazy. Like, we're all in it to be successful and make money, but also genuinely like wanting the other person to be successustle. Right?
Yeah. Like, one of the things I live by, like, it is one of my core values is goodwill. And this like hit me like a ton of bricks aside. Do you guys know Frank Kern? He's another like OG ad dude. Like, he's hilarious. Highly recommend him. But he just like wrote on a board, he's just like, saturate the market in goodwill. And that's it. If you absolutely drench the market in goodwill, in value, like being like proactively giving before you ask anything or ask for anything, like the mechanics of that is such that you will win over a long enough time horizon, right?
So I have to now tell the story of how we met.
Sure. Oh, yes. Yes.
Because it's exactly what you're describing. So the only reason you're sitting in this chair is because I saw what I thought was a sleazy ad on Facebook.
Perfect.
Right? So I saw this ad on Facebook that said, hey, I'll take free photos of your product or service for like a 20-minute photo session. And I was like, this sounds,
What's going on here?
I was like, this sounds too good to be true. But I was sucked in and I was like, all right, I'll message. So then I messaged and I was like, I want to see if this is actually a real person and not someone from across the globe trying to just take my money somehow. So I was like, let's set up a call. And then Kyle responds back and he's like, yeah, let's get on a call. So start kind of just shooting the breeze, going back and forth. And I was telling Matt, I'm always like trying to like gauge who am I talking to here? Are they authentic? And then I think in that original conversation, it came out that like you're originally from London, you were in the bar business yourself with Nimble Barco. And I think it came out that you went to Beale and that you knew my wife.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, well, at least I know he's real, right? So I was like, okay, we're gonna set this thing up. And I was telling these guys, I was like, worst case is we set all this stuff up and either A, he doesn't show up, or B, he takes the pictures and then starts asking me for a bunch of stuff on top of like the free photo shoot, and then I'm just gonna tell him to fuck off. But none of that happened.
So what happened?
Well, he threw goodwill at us. He took the photos, he turned them around. They were great photos. We still use them to this day. They're actually photos on our website. We still use them to this day. And then we established a really great just business relationship. So I think this is another saying I like to live by is real recognizes real. So I think you and I just immediately recognize that, hey, I think we can both learn off each other. We're both kind of in a similar phase in our entrepreneurship journey, and let's just leverage our skills and continue to jam on good ideas, right?
Yeah.
And we continue to do that, right? And I continue to like try to throw opportunities your way and vice versa. And it's been like just a really good mutually beneficial relationship where I don't think either of these parties feel like one is taking advantage of the other in any way, right? So like it's been really good.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. But yeah, like that's.
He's like, I still intend on fucking you.
just wait.
Hasn't happened yet.
You'll be bent over soon enough.
There you go.
He's like, I'm good at the long play.
I'll use lube. But no, it's just like that's my game. It's just like, and I do it with restaurants as well, where I offer complimentary photo shoots a lot of them nothing happens, but there are a few that have become like extreme, like quite lucrative, and to the point where we're scaling up, and so yeah.
So for any listeners that are restaurant owners, or is it exclusive to restaurant owners that you provide that service? Okay, so for any listeners that are restaurant owners, would you extend that offer to them? The complimentary, like 20.
So long as they're kind of in the area. I did just hire a photographer and videographer who's not me. I still, there's a lot of heavy lifting. At this stage of business where I'm the one who's doing the outreach. I go to the restaurants, I take the photos, I deliver them, I then schedule a road mapping call and all the way to close, and then fulfilling on the service. So there's a lot there. But if someone's in the area, absolutely. If someone wants to hit me up, sure. Like that's the thing is, the thing I do love about photography is it's a very high value thing. Like, I mean, this. No doubt you're way better than I am, but like I can just go in for like 20 to 30 minutes, click some buttons, and I can create like sick photos, and the value to that restaurant owner or whoever is very high. And for me, it's like pretty easy. Yeah. Obviously not that scalable, but as a way to start.
And how about this? Where can people find you? Like, what are your social links? What's the easiest way to contact you?
I would just find me Kyle Guilfoyle, like on Instagram. From Instagram, you can.
Not easy to spell. You got.
So it's a silent U, so it's Guilfoyle. But from there, you can check out Nimble Bar Company. You can check out Guest Getter. You can look up Guest Getter, Nimble Bar Company as well.
You had another clip that really interested me, and I think it relates to bars here in London. So you had a guest on there, Robin Goodfellow.
Yeah, that's Bar Revel.
And you asked him I don't know who asked, but anyways, the question was as a bar, they're not making any money. How can you
increase revenue in the next 3 months?
And he said, lower your drink prices.
He said lower prices.
Lower prices, okay.
Yeah, which I loved because
I love that too.
Everyone's like premium pricing, like raise prices. I've seen a lot of places close because their prices are still stuck in COVID. Like they jack their prices up and then they think that's what they have to do to survive. And he wasn't saying lower all your prices, but look at your product mix and where you're like things that aren't selling very well. Why not experiment using them as a loss leader? Bring the pricing down so the overall because people underestimate how our decisions based on pricing. Like if you can look at a menu and you see one menu and you're like, looks expensive, versus the one that's like, oh,
So understand. Explain that concept
of loss leader?
Listeners, loss leader.
Yeah, so
do you understand what that is?
No.
So it's an interesting concept.
Yeah, a loss leader is essentially where you break even, or you may even lose money on an item so that you bring people through the doors. Because the whole point of pricing, the whole point of offers, of specials, of all this stuff, it isn't for you to make money on the thing. It is to make your fucking restaurant busy. Right? And that's what I love what Robin said.
The example also on that is like Costco having the chicken, which is so cheap, and it's all the way at the back of the store.
Fucking hot dogs and the Coke.
That too, but
that's their number one loss leader.
Right, but chicken's another one. It's all the way at the back, so you have to go through the whole store to get to it and then back.
But every grocery store, that's their main strategy. Yeah. And when you open up a flyer, and they've got fucking milk on sale for $3 or whatever, they're not making money on the milk. But they know your ass is coming to that grocery store.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. 100%. So Costco is huge for giving out samples, right? Free samples. But that's all a loss leader is. It's dead simple. It's just like you're not making money on the thing, but the pricing of it is so attractive that people come in. It's magnetic.
But I think every business, even in the service industry, can learn about that concept. It's a very simple concept.
Well, and this is the thing is people obsess over their pricing, and it's so annoying. Because restaurant owners are always like, if I sell that at that price, I'm not making any money. But they don't realize that it's an overall, it's all of their pricing and products as a mix. And The thing is that if you can solve for the problem of your restaurant being a fucking ghost town and actually have it be busy, you'll have so many ways to make money on the back end, or like once people are in their seats, that you'll be beside yourself, and that's where you'll make the money. But if you have nobody in your restaurant, like how do you expect to make money? And
The
here
reason
they
why
are.
that clip really hit me is because being a DJ for so long, I've seen so many bars shut down just because of that. And
100%.
because there's this, I need to use this word, entitlement that they all have when they first open, that we're the newest, hottest shit, and we can charge Toronto prices without even taking time to kind of study the market and figure out like, hey, should I be charging this much for this or that, or, you know, so.
Yeah, and he's not saying lose money, but like find ways to like play with your pricing so it can be more attractive, so that you can be busier. Jay Abraham, oh man, love this guy. So he wrote a phenomenal book called Getting Everything You Can Out of All You Got. And probably the thing he said, I think it's literally a chapter title, but it's break even today so you can break the bank tomorrow. This is a concept that is like the restaurant owners who, I mean, any business owner that understands that and understands how to break the bank tomorrow, they're the ones who like really crush it. But most are trying so hard to break the bank today on their pricing, and as a result, it's like a force field that kind of like keeps people away, you know. And they're like, well, we don't have guests, or we're not. And
do you think the panic of them putting so much money into opening the business is what drives them to?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard talking to them.
You're trying to recoup your costs, and especially in this environment. Like, think of any new entrepreneur, us included, right? That like opened up shop in the last like couple of years. You've probably taken on additional debt that when you took that debt out would have been fucking 5%. Now you're sitting on that debt at like 10% if you're not in the green yet. That is pressure, right? Because you're like, okay, like now I see this debt just increasing, and I'm like, it's a lot harder. So there's more pressure there to try to make it quick, rather than play the long game, which is the right game to play, right?
Yeah. And I don't take it lightly. Like I'm not making fun or making, I'm not making light. Like I understand, like I wouldn't open a restaurant unless I had like, fuck you money.
And that's what I was thinking too, right?
Like and so, but those are the restaurants that like, they don't necessarily need to have fuck you money, but you have to have that long term.
There's a great owner here in London. I have lots of respect for him. I don't know if you guys know. Do you guys know Jim Ferreira?
No.
So he used to own the Grit and Gator. So everyone's like, Grit and Gator, that's that like sketchy bar downtown on Richmond. Okay, cool. So Jim buys that, and he's not thinking about today. He slowly built that bar into a very reputable bar, and he started going after these hip hop artists and turned that into like somewhat of like a.
So what is it today?
So he ended up moving over to Old East Bar. Right on Dundas. He took it all the way down there, and it just followed with him. And he started hitting demographics that everybody else wasn't going after. So, for example, LGBTQ community, he would have drag shows over there. Then he'd have hip hop shows over there, and he's just very savvy in how he kind of tackled being in that particular location.
Breweries do this really well. So you and I have had this conversation. We went out for dinner one time, and we were kind of just jamming on the guest getter thing. And I find, being in like the craft brewery space, breweries do this exceptionally well. They have every day of the week. Like they'll have a cornhole tournament on fucking Tuesday. They'll have like fucking, I don't know, like some rando artist on Wednesday. They'll have Harry Potter trivia night on Thursday. They have something for every night of the week that's going to capture a different demographic and keep the seats full. Right? And they do it really, really well. But on top of that, they've got their core, kind of guests that are gonna come, the regulars, right? On top of these other revolving door people. And it's not like they're gonna do Harry Potter night every fucking Wednesday.
No.
This Wednesday it's Harry Potter, but next fucking Wednesday it's Star Trek.
Yeah.
Or then the next one it's Star Wars. So they're getting different people through their door, and that's different people that are like, I really like this beer. Now they're getting conversion, right? So they do it exceptionally well, and they create that atmosphere that isn't stuffy. right? They're like, if I want to go there, you know, in fucking shorts and a sweater and throw around a cornhole bag and have a beer in my hand, I'm like, welcome, right? They're not going to go to the Fog and Horn or whatever it was called. Like, that's like a little bit like higher end, right? That's a different demographic. So that's the cool thing about a brewery is like, you can walk in wearing what you're wearing or wearing a fucking suit and nobody's going to care. Right? So they do that really, really well. And that's why most breweries have actually, like, if you think about a brewery that popped up 10 years ago, think of them like right now in like London, and look at where they are now, they've probably scaled tremendously from when you remember them opening, right? Just on size and what they have in their establishment. That's because they're profitable as fuck. They got too much money. They don't know what the fuck to do with it because they're really good at getting ass in seats. So it's a really good business case. Like I would say, like in business school, you should study the business of what like craft breweries have done in North America, especially those that have really scaled like really big and fast, like Cowbell Brewery. That's another big use case. Like really, really impressive.
Oh yeah, they're in.
They're out in the boons. But
yeah,
but their establishment is huge.
Aren't IPAs like crazy popular now too?
Yeah, IPAs are, but like
They like blew up. Yeah, so good. But they weren't around like. That's a relatively new trend, isn't it?
They became more popular with the rise of craft beer, right? And like all different styles, right? Like, you know, this is a wheat beer, right? But traditionally wheat beers were from Belgium, right? To get a wheat beer, you had to drink a Belgian beer, right? Now Muskoka breweries, this isn't Muskoka, this is Manitoulin. That is Muskoka. But but now Muskoka Brewery is got a wheat beer, right? So like it's just kind of bled into the brands creating their own marketing around beer styles, around their establishment, around all these different things, right? So
what's the future look like for you? Like what are you planning to do? Are you looking to scale the business anymore? Where's your head at with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really focused on my agency Guest Getter, over the next couple years, just like laser focus on taking it past.
So give us the elevator pitch on Guest Getter, right? Like what's the kind of 60-second explanation of Guest Getter for the listeners?
Well, most restaurants have an attention problem in that like they're actually far more obscure to the marketplace than they realize. Most people in their local markets don't know they exist or they've forgotten that they exist. And so, and to add to that, most restaurants also don't really do any marketing besides like posting on Instagram or Facebook once in a while, or like, you know, a few times a week, hoping that that'll solve their attention problem when it inevitably doesn't, because it actually doesn't get as much attention as they want unless they're absolutely prolific. And so Guest Getter serves as like we help them build modern marketing systems that solve not only their attention problem, but also like bringing guests in through the doors. And then finally, most importantly, is getting the guests come back more often. And so that's like we act as an extension to their team. And in many cases where they're fractional chief marketing officer. And so, yeah, that's what we do. And it's a very, like our program is, we have like one system, one program that's comprehensive. All like it starts with, you know, getting attention on Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, and we're breaking to TikTok, and then all the way to retaining through primarily email marketing and some as SMS marketing, and everything in between. So it's really like a fully sort of, yeah.
Is there any local like bar or restaurant who you can kind of give like an honorable mention, like shout out to like, hey, they're doing it the right way, or like when you think of what it is that you're selling, someone that's got it figured out, like is there anyone around here that you could
like I would be reluctant, like I can't, like I don't want to share any of like our clients, but just in general, bars or restaurants here that are doing it really well. Actually, to be honest, the first one that's coming to mind is a microbrewery in Windsor, Refined Fools. Do you guys know that brewery? I mean, it helps that they're owned by like a marketing company, but their branding, like the events that they host, they just had like a festival and they're like,
oh, you're talking Sarnia, Refined Fools.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, man. Yes.
Sarnia,
yes.
Sarnia.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Sarnia.
Beats on streets. Yo, your boy headlined that, you know.
Did you? They're dialed. I like a lot of what they do. I would say, I think like across the board, a real opportunity for bars and restaurants is to just like get in the game of running ads on social, because it doesn't cost a lot of money. And like we have these restaurants posting on, they're like tearing their hair out trying to post consistently, and each post will reach like maybe 1,000 people in some cases, sometimes way less than that. And they could be paying $3 to $5 to reach like 3,000 or 4,000 people with the same content. And so that like actually helps them. I had a guy on my podcast named Dennis Yoon. He said it's social. It's like, he calls it social postage, right? Like back in the day, if you wanted to get a message delivered, you had to go buy a stamp. Well, now if you actually want your message to reach people, you have to give the ad machine a little bit of money. And you don't have, it does not have to be thousands of dollars, but like you need to solve for people not knowing that you exist. And the other thing about posting on organic channels is, for the most part, again, like unless you're prolific, or unless like, I honestly feel like my bar videos on TikTok, that's luck. Like that's reaching lots of new people. But a lot of bars and restaurants are posting on Facebook and Instagram, and it's just an echo chamber. They're not actually solving the problem that they need new people to understand, or to like be aware that they exist. And so that's why we give the ad machine just a few bucks every day. So you pay the piper or whatever, you pay the postage, so that you're just actually reaching.
That's such a great way to boil it down for entrepreneurs, so that they understand what they're paying for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think it really kind of, for lack of a better term, dumbs it down for you to understand, okay, this is where my money's going and this is the impact it's having.
Yeah, 100%. Like we do notice a correlation of the number of impressions we get to revenue. You're not going to see, like the problem though is a restaurant will be like, oh, I made like 4,000 impressions last night, but we didn't see any more sales. Well, it's like, no fucking shit. Like you need to get, it's not linear. It's not a vending machine, right? Like sure, you put money in, you get the impressions, but that's not going to impact your revenue right away. So, but what we do notice on a quarter over quarter basis, the more impressions we get, the more we do see revenue correlate positively. Obviously, there are other factors, there is seasonality, there's all kinds of different things, but in general, we do see those two correlate.
So we're going to wrap things up with one final question.
Okay.
So this is a question that I think consensus is we're going to ask every guest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, if you were, like, say tomorrow, you started from scratch, like you didn't have any money in the bank, but we gave you 10 grand, and you had to make yourself a success with that 10 grand, what would you do?
Do I have my skills?
You've got your skills. You've got your skills.
And your looks too.
Yeah. But you just got to basically wipe the slate clean as of like today, and say you've been given 10 grand to basically make yourself a success. Where is that $10,000 going? Now, and think entrepreneurship, and not like, okay, I got to go buy bread. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to know about that.
I would, I'm surprising myself here. I'd put half of it into a list, like buying good data of like a specific niche. So can I still go after restaurants?
You can do it.
Okay, yeah. So I would procure a list of like a high quality list of restaurant owners. I would then reach out to them. I'd build like a sequence, like an outreach sequence of probably like 8 to 15 messages. I would offer complimentary photo shoots.
So some of that money needs to go towards buying a good camera.
Okay, so I need a phone. I would use an iPhone.
Okay, fair enough.
I would use an iPhone.
You're using the phone you already have.
Okay, so $1,000. Okay, $1,000 on the phone.
That's not 1,000. He can just go to the thing and get a
Do I have
plan.
Do I have credit history? Like, can
There you
I?
go, yeah.
I'll finance it.
We're going to assume you have credit.
Yeah. I'll finance the phone. That's what I would use for both photography and videography. And then I make the case that actually iPhone photos perform better than the fancy photos across the board. And so I would offer complimentary media kits that would include photos and videos that would be just iPhone or using the iPhone. And then the only condition is those restaurant owners let me take them through a road mapping session where we help them finish the year as strong as possible. And then they can and then we work on a game plan where they can implement with or without our help. That's what I would do. And I would, to be honest, I'd probably put all the money into the list. I'd probably put like 9,000 into a good list, and then maybe $1,000 on my phone, or like, I finance it, and then that's all I do. I wouldn't even bother with a website.
I just thought of a great follow-up question, but I can't ask you because we're at the end. So, fuck, that sucks.
I mean, ask it.
Yeah. Okay. So I like how you get them to stick with you through the roadmap or whatever. At which point now do you sit there now and be like, okay, this is how much you owe me for getting you to this point? When do you bring up the money? You know what I mean? Because I feel like for your in your field, it's hard to kind of ask for that before you create the result. You know what I mean?
Oh no, it's actually not. So I'd take them through the road mapping process, and then I would say, are you interested in getting help with this? And if you are, then what I can do is I can turn. So I actually do the road mapping process. Shit, I read on an iPad. I'd find a way to do it without the iPad. No, I'd buy an iPad. I'll use iPad for like $150.
Go to RBC, open up a bank account,
Boom.
free iPad.
Boom, problem solved.
You need a business account anyway.
So
There's the plug for RBC.
So I take I draw like the roadmap. It looks like absolute shit, but then I say, okay, if this makes sense to you,
Draw it out on a piece of paper.
here's what I got here. If this makes sense to you and you'd like help with this, I can actually take this and I can turn it into like a roadmap that you can actually read, and I'll also attach a couple of prices that that would be an investment that you could put into us to help you get these results. Because especially if you're a restaurant owner that's like somewhat successful, you don't have the time to do it. You don't want to, you want to understand, you want to learn, but you ultimately want someone to implement for you. I think most business owners can relate to that. And so then I book a final call where I take them through it, and I share the prices. I throw in some bonuses and also some guarantees. Yeah. And the close rate's actually pretty high. So that's how I do it. I wouldn't bother with websites. I wouldn't bother with a logo or any of the other shit most of us obsess over. I would just get a list, reach out to people.
I have one more question.
Shoot.
What's your favorite drink to make and drink?
It would be a mezcal Negroni. That's my desert island. So do you know Negroni, the Negroni cocktail? No. So Negroni is, most people when they first try it are disgusted by it because it's very bitter and very, it's a spirit forward drink. So it's equal parts gin, Campari, sweet vermouth, very traditional, classic, iconic Italian cocktail.
Okay.
I like to replace the gin for mezcal, which is an agave spirit, really closely related to tequila, very smoky.
Oh, nice.
And that's my desert island.
All right, so I want to extend a big thank you to Kyle for joining us today. We had a phenomenal conversation. I feel like we could have talked for another hour. Yeah. So we're going to definitely have you back on the pod, because I think there's tons of other topics that we could definitely chat about. So
yeah, it's great talking to you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, great guest.
That was fun.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having
See you
me.
later.
Cheers. Bye.